Forum is
Be the first to know. From the north, south, east, west, and around Africa, we break the news. Now you can catch all the actions live as the news breaks. We are Core TV News.
Welcome to Core TV Primetime
Our
News.
24-hour news station.
It's 100 years after the amalgamation of the northern and southern protectorates that gave birth to Nigeria. 54 years after Nigeria became an independent nation, not only is Nigeria trying hard to ensure that its citizens are indeed economically independent, but there is another major challenge that is battling with the whole national essence of Nigeria as a nation. It is called terrorism. In the local parlance, we call it Boko Haram. But earlier last month, we got some green light from the Nigerian army. The chief of defense staff actually came out to give Nigerians something somewhat like a soothing relief from all the menace that terrorism has caused in this part of the world. Let's hear him out, and I'll be back with you.
To Cameroon, I once again want to thank you on behalf of Armed Forces of Nigeria. Je vais vous remercier au nom d'État-major du Nigeria for accepting to come over to Abuja, come and discuss this all important matter. Pour avoir accepté de venir à Abuja pour discuter cet sujet vraiment important. We are living here more determined than ever before to ensure that we face our challenges mutually. Nous allons quitter d'ici en sachant que nous avons la détermination de combattre ensemble. And I hope that in the nearest future you will invite us over to Cameroon, maybe not come and discuss such matters because maybe we would have finished it, but come on maybe friendly visit. Et j'ai l'espoir que vous allez nous inviter au Cameroun pour discuter, mais c'est pas discuter quelque chose comme ça, mais on va discuter dans une ambiance d'amitié. So I'd like to thank you again for coming and et je vais vous remercier. We wish you safe journey back to Yaoundé. Je vous souhaite bon voyage à Yaoundé. But without any prejudice to the outcome of our 3 days interaction, mais sans considérer ce qu'on avait déjà discuté dans 3 jours. And the conclusion of this forum, et en conclusion, I wish to inform this audience. Je vais informer tout le monde that a ceasefire agreement has been concluded between the federal government of Nigeria and Al-Sunnah Lidawa wal Jihad. Qu'ils ont déjà signé un cessez-le-feu entre l'armée du Nigeria et je ne sais pas le nom, et le Boko Haram. I have accordingly directed et j'ai déjà instruit the service chiefs to ensure immediate compliance with this development in the field. Le chef de service de respecter ce qui est déjà signé. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
So that was exactly how the story began. The story of a ceasefire deal. Not only were Nigerians apprehensive as regards the moral justification of how we can just let people who have been responsible for the loss of thousands of innocent Nigerians in the past, but much more, what exactly, where did the federal government get the credibility from? There were stories of speaking with one general secretary of the Boko Haram sect. Well, in a swift reaction to that, much more than what Nigerians have been asking for, to hear what the Boko Haram sect has to say as regards these, because there was a time Abubakar Shekau was said to be killed by the Nigerian army, and they came out to say, no, he was not dead. There seems to be an interaction on social media between the Nigerian army and the Boko Haram sect. Finally, Nigerians got it, what is now being termed as the new Boko Haram video. This is what the imposter, as we know him, especially what the Nigerian army tells us Abubakar Shekau is saying as regards the ceasefire deal.
الحمد لله الذي جعل الجهاد عبادة وجعله لعباده من أعظم العبادة بشرهم بإحدى الحسنيين يو har wata shida da wani abu Allah ya gagari arne Allah ya gagari dagutu Allah ya gagari American Allah ya gagari wani jirgi mai suna drum shegiya Allah ya gagari kowa Allah ya fi ƙarfin kowa abun mamaki yau da matan Chibok ma'ana iyayen matan Chibok da babansu da sauransu da za ku san yau ‘ya'yanku mata halin da suke ciki ko wani ya zama masa alheri ya musulunta ko kuma wani dan bakin ciki ya mutu.
We'll call our Adaba correspondent, Martins Dixon, later to do an English interpretation of what Abubakar Shekau is saying there. But according to newspaper reports, they are insisting that the Chibok girls have been married off to their members and there is no such thing as a ceasefire deal. The new Boko Haram video, what next? That's the focus of our discussion on Cool Digest Monday. I'm joined now by Martins Onovo. Martins Onovo was once upon a time a presidential candidate of the Action Alliance in the 2011 presidential election. Martins, good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Let me first give you some PR. Are you contesting in 2015?
Well, that decision is made by more than one person. Am I still interested in becoming the president of Nigeria? Definitely.
Okay.
But the decision to contest is made by more than one person.
You saw the videos and the analysis earlier. What do you make of all of these at this time?
Well, not just the videos and the analysis. There are a few things that have happened subsequently, which we should add to the picture to have more information to make a better interpretation. One of those is that Mubi has been taken by Boko Haram, including the barracks in Mubi. And unofficial information said there were 5 armored tanks in the barracks when it was taken, and the whole armory has been taken. 2 other cities fell in Adamawa. What it tells me now is that there was no ceasefire. Just like the Boko Haram has announced, there was no ceasefire. And that just goes to show the inability of the present political rulers to arrange anything. Whether it's Binishagamu Road or whether it's a ceasefire, they are not able to arrange anything. And that's what it tells me. And it's unfortunate because we didn't just get here. We had warned repeatedly that we will get here. We had said specifically, and it was published by many newspapers, that corruption was a threat to national security. We had said it. It's obvious. Everybody knows that. You can't continue to do the wrong things and expect the right answers. And unfortunately, a lot of Nigerians think that we can do the wrong things and get the right answers. So what all this tells me is, first, there was no ceasefire. Second, the government has reconfirmed and reconfirmed and reconfirmed its inability to take care of basic, simple matters.
Does it in any way baffle you that Mubi, that you made mention earlier, is the hometown of the Chief of Defense Staff, Alex Badi? Do you think that by capturing that particular portion, that particular part of Nigeria, is Boko Haram making any significant statement?
Oh yes, actions speak louder than words. They are telling him that they are better than him. That's what they're telling him. If I can take your village in a contest and you cannot come close to my own, I'm better than you. That's what it means. And it's deliberate. They wanted to make that statement. Look at the apparent level of intellectual backing that Boko Haram has. A ragtag, senseless band of cowardly terrorists compared to the rulers in Abuja.
We attempted to speak with Alex Bade after a particular briefing that he and other stakeholders had with Mr. President. Can we give this video some sound and find out what exactly he said?
You are not addressing issues. You are addressing personalities. That's why it's very difficult for me to talk. No, you see, I don't like talking because you are not addressing issues. You are addressing personalities. That's why it's very difficult for me.
He declined speaking with us because he said that journalists at this time, and indeed some Nigerians, are not addressing issues but personalities. How do we draw that thin line?
He needs to understand the concept of authority and responsibility in leadership. He also needs to understand the concept of stewardship and accountability. Now, this is a democracy, apparently. That's a wrong statement for me. It is not a democracy, but we say it is a democracy. We say it's a democracy. If it's a democracy, the people are sovereign. Therefore, the political rulers, the military leadership, they are all accountable to us. And we have a right to ask them questions. And if you hold a position, you must be able to responsibly and competently perform the duties of that position. If you are not able, the first thing, if you have self-respect, is to resign. Now, if you don't have self-respect and you don't resign, and there is a legitimate and authentic and competent leadership, it will remove you. It will remove you. It is unfortunate that a simple thing like this has become overcomplicated like everything else in Nigeria. Every simple thing gets overcomplicated. Do a 100-kilometer stretch of Benin-Shagamu, it gets overcomplicated in Nigeria. Because of the level of moral depravity that has become systemic, where you have multiple layers of falsehood, not one layer. If it is one layer, you can identify it and extricate it. But when you have multiple layers of falsehood.
You talked about doing the honorable thing by resigning. That's not the first time there will be a change in the leadership, especially within the ranks in the Nigerian army. Do you think that a change is actually effective at that level?
No. I was talking in general terms. If you want to be more specific, the Movement for Fundamental Change has, as part of its independence anniversary press conference, called on the Commander-in-Chief to resign. The Commander-in-Chief needs to take responsibility for his Chief of Defense Staff. He needs to take responsibility for his service chiefs. He needs to take responsibility for his combat forces.
What exactly do you think that the Commander-in-Chief is not doing different?
Oh, so many things.
At this time.
So many things. If you want to put it in one word, he's not providing leadership. And apparently, over the last, since 2010, he became Commander-in-Chief, it is obvious that he cannot. So asking him to go forward and provide leadership, it will not work. He needs to give in. The Commander-in-Chief is not only not providing leadership, he has shown over the last 4 or 5 years that he's unable. So it's even out of love. We should relieve him. It's not spite. People are interpreting his political rivalry, it is spite. It is not spite.
There are other school of thoughts that will say relative to what we experience in other countries that are also battling terrorism in their climes, that Nigeria is not doing badly.
Nigeria is doing very badly. Look at your next door neighbor, Cameroon. Every day Cameroon will kill 42, 39. They took the wife of the deputy prime minister, some high political official. The Cameroonian forces went after them. Within 48 hours, they got everybody back alive. Excuse me. What are you comparing with? Are you comparing with the US? that went into another country's territory, how many kilometers away in a different continent, and took out Osama bin Laden. What are you people comparing? Why do you people feed our people with information that our people keep making wrong judgments? Doing well, Yar'Adua was in power before he died. Yar'Adua got the leader of Boko Haram. Of course, the police mismanaged it. But Yar'Adua got the man. And you didn't have all this noise or borrow money. How much money has Cameroon borrowed to fight? How much money did we borrow when we went to Liberia? How much money did we borrow when we drove away Chad under Shagari? How much money did we borrow when Maitasina was giving us trouble under Shagari and we drove them away? The man is unable to lead. The man, we should pity him, beg him to go.
It was on the news today that Army arrested about 6 senior officers for fleeing.
Yes.
This is the fourth
and they court-martialed the first set, the second set, there's going to be a third set. Very soon we're going to court-martial everybody.
What exactly do you think
is leadership. Look at your health sector. Babangida just came back from abroad. Medical tourism. The first lady just came back. Which sector has worked? I decided because of Chief Zebudaya, my very good friend, unfortunately. Chief Zebudaya's stand video. I saw it and I said maybe a few things has happened. The last time I was on Bini Shagamu. I decided to go on Bini Shagamu again. It took 14 hours to get to Enugu. Excuse me. In many sections, not one section. Many, more than 2 sections. You are using 1 lane. But Chief Zebudaya went and showed a 3-lane highway. This man built a legacy of integrity for 40 years and he has destroyed it because of TAN. That's what I told you. That's too much falsehood. People will believe a character like Chief Zebudaya until now.
We also spoke with certain stakeholders in Mubi, and we're just going to find out what exactly the mood is like in that part of Adabawa. Join us again.
The case of Mubi reached its peak, its optimum yesterday, when the insurgents penetrated Mubi finally and decided to unleash their mayhem on our people, burning and looting, and they burned down shops up to close to about 100 number of shops in the market, and they took over strategic areas in the town. And seeing this, our people felt they were not secure and decided to, leave their homes, to flee, to diplomatically take up the issue of our brothers who have crossed into the Cameroonian territory. Well, reports reaching us indicate that they are not finding things easy in those places because the thing happened suddenly without any arrangement, and when you see people massively moving into your area, you get apprehensive. And I think we have been very good. Our relationship with our Cameroonian brothers have been very good. After all, we find ourselves across the border. We are all one people. So we'll still appeal to our brothers on the other side of the divide to really be sympathetic towards the cause of our people and accept them and facilitate their movement. Those who want to move through their places should be assisted.
Not quite remorseful, defeated, and possibly rejected and dejected, if those words will form together well enough. But do you think, Martin Onovo, that the authorities know who the Boko Haram sponsors are?
I will think they should know. I don't know if they know or not. I'll think they should know. And don't forget that we've given a lot of advice in the past. So the issue, and that's why I talked about lack of capability. The sponsors of Boko Haram, according to the commander-in-chief, he told a recent international meet, I think it was the United Nations, that the funds are foreign and that the fighters are foreign. We know all our neighbors. He didn't name any of them. Foreign can mean anything. And the president is not a clerk in a ministry. A president has resources, especially of a president of a super rich country like Nigeria. You have resources. That's why you have so many advisors and a large bureaucracy. If it functions, you have several levels of quality control before it gets to the level of president. The president doesn't talk nonsense. What a president says has a certain level of authority and credibility under normal circumstances. But unfortunately, that's not the case here now. Because we know what the same commander-in-chief had said in the past about Boko Haram, including that they were in his government. If they're in your government, it means you know them.
And why do you think it's hard to flush them out?
I think it's hard because the leadership is very weak. We can now talking about why the leadership is weak, but that's a different thing. When this issue started and our soldiers started losing ground, we raised alarm. Why our soldiers, world-class soldiers, Nigerian soldiers are world-class, why are we losing ground against a cowardly force of senseless terrorists?
Just a minute, let's take this call. Gideon is calling us now on Call Digest. Good morning, Gideon.
Hello, good morning.
Please go ahead with the contribution.
You people are doing a wonderful job over there. I want to go with my brother over there. This is telling us that Trump has nothing to offer Nigeria. Better it is right now. Better it is right now. Because we cannot do anything like ceasefire. Thank you.
Thank you for your precise contribution, Gideon. Good to hear from you. Now, beyond all of that, there are also now questions about how all of these will impact on elections and politics in 2015, especially now that we're talking about the general election. We also spoke with the Adamawa State Governor. I'm sure you're aware about the what's it called now, the curfew that is ongoing between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. Before we hear from the governor now, how do you think that that particular decision can impact on the situation now in Adamawa?
Well, whatever security measures he needs to take, he must take. But we know that by the constitution of Nigeria, a governor is only #1 chief security officer of a state, and he has no capable combat force. Don't forget. Okay. So the chief security officer of a governor is actually administrative by our laws. And I like it the way it is, the laws the way they are. But that assumes that the one who has responsibility for combat forces will protect all the states.
All right, let's quickly hear from the governor of Adamawa State, James Igalari, suing for peace as regards the developments in Adamawa. Stick around.
It is with a deep sense of sorrow and pain in my heart that I address you today. You are all aware of the recent attacks by insurgents at Upa, Maraba Mubi, Mubi Town, and other towns in our state that have left a number of our citizens dead and scores of others displaced and unquantified loss of property. I wish to reassure you that I am doing all I can with my team to address this situation. I've also been in touch with the presidency and the Office of the Minister of Foreign Affairs to address the issue of our citizens who are now refugees in the Cameroons. I'll continue to do all I can until they are provided with basic necessities such as food, water, and until they are brought back to our state to reunite with their loved ones, families, and friends. I want to call on all the citizens of our state to continue in earnest prayers that God will take away this scourge of insurgency and restore the peace and tranquility that our state has always been known for.
Bala James Igalari, governor of Adamawa State, speaking, reacting to development as regards security and insecurity situations in the state. Prior to this time, it was a question of the cooperation that exists between the the former governor Iyako and the federal government. And Iyako came up with a very amazing letter, indicting Mr. President practically, and indicting his government's involvement in insurgency in that part of the world. With this same rare issue rearing its head now between an APC and a PDP government, would you agree that Boko Haram is really beyond party affiliation?
Well, I don't know why you choose to put it in that context. I do not think it has anything to do with those rivalries, those political rivalries.
Okay.
In reality. Because there is no political rivalry that stops you from deploying military forces. There is no political rivalry that incapacitates you from hitting known Boko Haram targets.
Okay.
Secondly, there's no political rivalry that takes away your common sense. What do I mean? Ever since Boko Haram attacked the Air Force base in Borno State, ever since retired General Theophilus Danjuma, 2 years ago, he said, this is war. He said, this is war. I'm not a retired general. I'm not an expert in warfare. Danjuma will be considered all over the world an expert in warfare. He said, this is war. The president did not call him and say, what do you mean by this is war? And how do we respond to a war? Recently, the Senate president, who is also a retired general, told the president to declare war. But because apparently the only objective that this president has is 2015, second term. Apparently, because if you look at the resources, the effort, the sophistication committed to 2015, then it becomes obvious that that is why he seems incapable of managing anything else. Health, infrastructure, security, education, nothing else.
Well, that wouldn't be a very correct statement to make.
Why will you say it's not correct?
Considering the success that Nigeria just enjoyed in fighting Ebola.
Fighting Ebola.
That indeed has attracted a lot of
Fighting Ebola was a Lagos success, my
commendation.
friend.
It was a collaboration between
No, it was
the
a
federal
Lagos success. Please don't even go there. It was a Lagos success, and you must give credit to the right people.
But we were all
Excuse
aware,
me, sir.
we were all aware
Excuse me, sir.
about the practical involvement
Excuse me,
of
sir.
the Minister of Health
Excuse me,
in
sir.
all of that.
Excuse me, sir. The doctors in the hospital who first detected it was Ebola, who first insisted on confinement, controlled Ebola. Not even politicians. Who insisted on confinement there and then in that first hospital, that this may be Ebola. Confine this patient. Against his will, don't let him leave the hospital. So why will you give that credit to politicians instead of to professionals? Tomorrow you say the professionals are no good because you're not giving them due credit. It was professionals that did that. If that guy had gone back to town and continued to infect people, then you would have had a worse case of Ebola.
Just a minute. Let's take this call from Rotimi. Good morning, Rotimi.
Hello.
Good morning. Go ahead with the contribution, please.
Hello, good morning.
Yeah, go ahead, Rotimi. I'm with you.
Yes, we have spent this time without number that this president doesn't know where he's going. He doesn't know the responsibility of the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. He just paraded a full corner as the aide camp. A full corner standing behind him. He doesn't know what it means to be a commander-in-chief of armed forces. They are living on falsehood. And they are parading falsehood to us, making us to believe they are doing something. They are not doing anything. I don't know. I keep praying every day that this thing should not lead to a total war or not Nigeria. It's because me and you, we are still living in this part of the country. We are still going about our daily duties, believing that we are fine. This thing we still get to the south, and the southwest and everywhere in the country. If we are not careful, if we don't manage the right way, the right thing for the president to do now is to resign and go away. To resign and go away. Let the other people that can handle it, let them handle it. You saw the case of Obasanjo during the time of the war came out, what Obasanjo ready to it. That's the president that is capable of doing something. Not at the badge of threat to the citizens of Nigeria, and we are looking, we are parading those people that doesn't know they are pepper soup generals that they are parading, that they say they are generals. Look at the commander, look at the chief of defense staff. The whole village is taking over, and you are sitting down there, and you are saying because they are attacking the person. What kind of person are they attacking? I beg God for this country. I really beg God.
Thank you very much for...
We get to a state that we are going to take use our hands to change them out. It's happening in Africa now, and it's still coming to Nigeria. We will change them out of power, and we will take our future into our hands. Thank you.
I believe you made your point there. Rotimi calling from Ikotun. Thank you very much for your contribution. We must make it clear here that everyone has a right to his own opinion, and whatever opinion that Rotimi, as well as Martins Onovo, is sharing on Core TV are basically their own opinion. It has nothing to do with the position of Core TV News. But beyond all of that, let's look at the God factor in all of this, because the governor of Adamawa, in his own address, talked about praying to God. And also, just yesterday, Mr. President also has called on the clergy to pray for the peace and stability of Nigeria. I mean, Nigerians have been praying. Where do you place this very germane God factor in all of this?
Well, the first thing is that the God factor is the supreme, infinite, overriding factor in all matters. That's number one. And that's incontestable. The second thing is, there's a Latin maxim.
Okay.
Laborare est orare. To work is to pray. That is why I'm Christian. From a Christian perspective, St. Paul said, those who do not work should not eat. Now you can say, why is St. Paul saying people should not eat? He must be very wicked. He wants them to die of hunger, which is the kind of stupid interpretations you hear in Nigeria. He said, those who do not work should not eat.
Just a minute. Let me hold you there. Just please do not lose that train of thought. Let's take this caller. Good morning, Patrick.
Good morning, sir. Thank you.
Go ahead with your contribution.
Please, my contribution and where are we going from here now is that I think the president cannot, and the chief of staff, they cannot tell us in Nigeria that they don't know what actually this Boko Haram is. They cannot come out on here and need to tell us that, sir. They know it very, very well. They know the grassroots very, very well. And if they want to fight these people, they could fight them very, very well. You all is the way we join hands together as Nigeria to fight this last Ebola that was our threat in the country. So therefore, if this government, if this president, our president, and the chief of staff, if they should come out the way the religions and no differences from us, you can be able to put these people in where they are. Who is Boko Haram, for example? Who is Boko Haram to compare with the federal government? Are they bigger than us? Are they bigger than Nigeria? So they are among them. If they are coming out to say they don't know, which means they are among them. Which means the president, the chief of army staff, they know these people. They are their brothers, they are their friends, they are their political people. So they are not saying for are they hiding? Where are they hiding? Are they spirits? Are they spirits? Are they not human? They live amongst us. They live amongst the house. They are amongst the house there. They are the campus labor there. Please, we are Nigeria. This thing is going to lead to war.
Patrick.
For instance, when the news has been heard in Asoro there, before you know it, this thing has going to it.
Thank you very much, Patrick, for your contribution. I believe that we must also express certain caution in our contribution. We must be as objective and unbiased as possible, considering the fact that this is a national platform and all of this discussion is geared towards making Nigeria a better place for all of us. So we mustn't make statements that would incite the public. You were sharing your thoughts alongside the God factor.
I hope you're not trying to censor us. When Nigerians will have a right to life, it's documented in our constitution, we need to take steps to protect ourselves.
We must also ensure that
if the people in charge of our security are not doing what they're paid to do, it's our right to remove them by our constitution.
Yeah,
by the Nigerian constitution, not by my opinion.
Exactly.
So we need to be clear, this is not a joke. Children were attacked in FGC Buninyadi. You're talking about Chibok girls. Buninyadi, they were set on fire. Federal government called it Buninyadi before Chibok girls. They are people's children. Some people are responsible for the security of those children. Now, if you want to give them an award, it's your choice. We choose to condemn them. You must not censor us. We're going to condemn the people who have not done what they were supposed to do, who have led to the loss of so much lives, so much blood on the streets, so much waste of national resources.
But you agree with me that there's nothing wrong in doing that as objective as possible?
Well, if you think it's not objective, provide your data that shows that we're not being objective.
We must be able to confirm
Let me tell you, let me tell you, it's your duty to confirm it. You're a journalist. Now, Prime Minister of Hungary was accused of plagiarism. That's not a crime. It's an academic offense. In his PhD thesis.
Okay.
He resigned. That is leadership. Not destiny jokes you're making here. That is leadership. He has not been convicted. Was accused. Your PhD thesis, you do copy. That's plagiarism. He resigned. Leadership does not allow this kind of deceit, lack of credibility, lack of responsibility, lack of authority.
Just a minute. Let's take this call from Innocent. Good morning, Innocent.
All right.
Go ahead, please.
Hello?
Go ahead with the contribution.
My brother. Thanks very much. This is my brother. I don't know where he hides things. I like the way he speaks. All these people, they are just deceiving us. We should ask ourselves questions. This Boko Haram we are talking about every day and night. Why is it that it's only happening in Hausa's boundary? That is the only thing I want to ask Sarah. No, please.
From Showolu want to find out why all of these are domiciliary in the northern part of Nigeria.
Well, let me try and suggest some factors. If you listen to the US government and to certain Nigerian researchers, they said the Northeast is the poorest region in Nigeria. Because of that, it is fertile ground to recruit young people and mislead them. So, if you say that is correct or that is wrong, that's the position of the US government. That's the position of many Nigerian researchers from Nigerian universities. That because it's the poorest place, you have a large pool of disillusioned and hopeless youths who can easily be recruited. Now, is that not a failure of governance? So, you cannot paint this thing. If you hire a driver today, he goes out with your vehicle, comes back, he has lost one headlight. Tomorrow he comes back, he has taken a side collision. Next tomorrow you follow him to Ibadan. You find out that he didn't avoid any bump and that you had 10 near misses. You want to keep that driver. That's your choice of, that's your opinion. And you're entitled to it. But if you ask us, we will say, sack the driver. If you have a driver that's endangering your life, you sack that driver. Don't say it's from your village. Don't say it's your mother's brother. Sack the driver. If you love him so much, send him to Last Day, Lagos State Driving Institute. But sack him. Relieve him now. Otherwise, he's going to kill you and your family. The commander-in-chief needs to step down. That's our opinion, and the Movement for Fundamental Change has documented it, and it's been published in newspapers. It is not secret. It's been published in many newspapers.
It's all right. Let's move some steps away from all of these and begin to find out how all of these would impact on the forthcoming general elections. Because when we talk about change, as it is now, change too must be democratic so that we will ensure a united and forward-going Nigeria. How do you perceive people's participation in the forthcoming election in the midst of such fear amongst the people?
In 1999, when we told ourselves we're going back to democracy, there was a lot of lethargy. A lot of people did not want to participate for different reasons. Some people said the military was not sincere. Some other people said the election will not be free and fair. Why do I waste my time registering and voting? The religious leaders were spoken to by the political rulers. And the religious leaders told the people, go and do your part, register and vote. Then, if they don't count your vote, you're in a position to accuse them. You have the moral authority to accuse them. So the participation you got was based on the intervention of religious leaders. Now, since then, have we had a free and fair election? In my opinion, no. And the worst election, in my opinion, like also Professor Maurice who has said, was the 2011 elections. And he gave the indices why even his election that everybody poo-pooed was better than the 2011 elections. And unfortunately, the 2011 elections threw up this government that has led to this mayhem. What we are saying is this. The power of democracy, if it is democratic, is that people will not self-destruct normally. At least you can't say that the majority of people choose to self-destruct. It's very unlikely. So people will vote to favor their interest. And their interest is the development of their country. Because development is what they enjoy. So I don't think that any Nigerian would deliberately vote against regular power supply, deliberately vote against adequate Medicare, deliberately vote against a good education for his children. But what happens? There's propaganda. It's not that simplistic. There is rigging. There is pre-rigging. There is post-rigging. There is manipulation in the judiciary, which Maurice also talked about. He said, how is it that the INEC, that he left, which claims he did a good election, refused to cooperate with the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal? How is it that the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal was disbanded in this country? And you want to convince us that that was free and fair? Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir, please. Our people have a very short memory. That's why I wanted to mention Budin Yadi, because many people don't remember there was ever Budin Yadi. It was people's children that were born in a federal government college, not in a state college, not in a private college. Federal government college. Children set on fire by Boko Haram. Nobody resigned. You remember the Asian country where a boat capsized? About 300 people died. The Prime Minister resigned. Leadership, you must accept responsibility for what the people under you are doing, especially when you have appointed them.
Let's take this next call from Ruben. Good morning, Ruben.
Hello.
Good morning. Go ahead with the contribution, please.
Good morning, Mr. Bondico.
Good morning.
All right, no problem. I'm calling from Warrior right at the moment. And I'm listening to the conversation which is what happening right at the moment. I want to tell you my mind that I'm in support of what the man is saying, because if the government doesn't know what they're doing, then they should flush these services out of the organization. Because I'm talking for myself, my father happens to be a retired military as well. Look at the time of Bassinger, what happened in the Obizier when he was in power. He flushed everything out. I see why this man couldn't do it. The thinking. To have a full corner. A full corner, do you know the meaning of a full corner? The full corner is the top officer. Running behind the president. We couldn't advise the president on what to do on this issue. Acquainted with the president. I was acquainted with the president and the entire cabinet. The chief, they call themselves chief of defense staff and so on and so on and so on. They just force them out from the system because they don't know what they're doing. They do work, they do things according to the military. So that's my view.
Thank you very much, Ruben, for your contribution. We keep hearing people say, flush them out of the government, change leadership. Do you think that the Nigerian electorate are really ready for a change come 2015?
No. You'll be surprised I'm saying that, and I'm an opposition party member. I belong to the Action Alliance, and I think the people are not ready. I think the people have been confused with this deceit, and that's why I'm saying that the effort they are putting into politics, let them put it against Boko Haram. But that shows you that their interest is not fighting Boko Haram. They are benefiting from Boko Haram. You know why? Boko Haram is the justification for all the trillions that have been approved for security. Now, where is the result of the trillions? That ragtag, senseless, cowardly Boko Haram, do they have trillions to fight us? How come we spend trillions, they spend 10,000, they defeat us? Something is wrong, it's the leadership. Can't we think?
Let's quickly touch on, just before
they are carrying rocket-propelled grenades. Ordinary Nigerian military had rocket-propelled grenades. Nigeria cannot have rocket-propelled grenades and fight them. Okay, 1 year ago, on a TV program, I said, government, envelope, is military tactics. Envelope Sambisa. Let's cut off at least supplies. Can't we envelope Sambisa, a country as big as Nigeria? Are we saying that Nigeria cannot envelope Borno State? How come we can't envelope Sambisa?
Let's hear this caller out. Good morning, Megwis. Hello, good morning.
Morning.
Go ahead with the contribution, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I want to first commend your guest there. God bless him. God bless him. And I want to say that the issue of the incident or the Boko Haram in this nation is just a matter of a father that is too weak in actually defending his family. Just like to tell a father, when you return from the work or any place, you had that somebody just messed up your family and just take it lightly. As time goes on, this thing will generate before you return one day, your whole heart has been taken over. That is what's happening in this country. For the president and the commander-in-chief, that was the speaker of rightly said. Indeed, actually, the man tries to separate responsibility and authority. This is what he is. On his own, he has not been able to actually understand the responsibility and his authority as the commander-in-chief or as the president of the country. For now, the truth is that it is hard to say, but we must all see it, that what we actually need for now, as people, as Nigerians, we need a change. And we must understand that it's time we see that our leaders understand the reason why they are there. And they should know that this is the reason why they are pursuing it. It's a failure. The man has said, if they will have actually, the man that is having the responsibility, have a self-respect. When he says, the first thing that comes to his mind is about, let me quit this position. It's sorry. But things like this are not done. Like we always say, what is forward? Thank God, the time to change. At least in the next 4 years, our destiny is in our hand again. If you look at it, believe it or not, they've adapted already. So I don't know, I want to think before your text is still. What do you think from all your experience and what do you think that will help the for now, help the masses of this country? In that it's high time we change the governance of this country, not just in any way. That is what I want. That is what I want you to arrange. So it's high time we should stop deceiving ourselves. Emotions of the data. And of the black progress, that is Harvard or that is single. On my own, I'm trying to be carried away that indeed the man is doing one or two things. But actually, like you said, the travel Shagamu only go one or two things. You see, that's a false presentation. Put many of us from afar, we don't even go to do something for ourselves and see if this thing will show us in terms are real. We just take them and want to believe that they are working. I mean, I was somewhere, people were talking about it. I said, no. I said, in the power sector and many other things, it's fine. Somebody don't see that. I said, no, I am always looking at my television all there. So this is it. So this is time we should understand that enough of this is that we should once again...
Your point there, Megwis. Thank you very much for joining us on Cool Digest Monday. On the front page of the Vanguard this morning, interesting picture here, quite sad, displaced persons in Nigeria. We have a situation where thousands of Nigerians are now refugees in their home country. And you even heard the Adamawa State Governor talked about refugees in Cameroon. Now, unfortunately, the state of life there is deteriorating. And then you have white people even coming to, as donors. What do you think should be the role of the government, call it federal or state, at this time for these people?
You know, like we said initially, it's teaching time saves none. You can look at this camp, for example, now. You can look at the shelter you can see in the background. That shelter apparently cannot contain all these people, so some of them might be sleeping either in veranda or under the trees. Now, that's how bad it is. It's going to introduce health challenges. There's going to be fatalities. There's going to be possible epidemics because of sanitary conditions and all that. The refugee situation is no longer in thousands. International estimates say about 1 million displaced people, displaced from Nigeria. And that is because we allow this thing to spread. Who are we going to blame? Are we going to blame the carpenter, private carpenter on the Solo Road? This is somebody's responsibility. Why did we allow Boko Haram to get out of Borno? Why? The same way we tried to contain Ebola, why did we not try to contain Boko Haram in Borno? Now, Boko Haram has territory in 3 states. And according to the Nigerian Military High Command, we are fighting to take back the territory. I mean, this is ridiculous. Boko Haram, ragtag, senseless cowards, Nigerian military. Ha!
It's a red.
Well, in a country, let me tell you why some of us are not surprised. First is that we predicted it will happen like this. Because it's obvious. If you do the wrong things, you get the right answers. That's how you can predict. In a country where 35 governors who are supposed to be icons of democracy because supposedly they were democratically elected. Supposedly. They did an election in Nigerian Governors Forum. 19 voted for Governor Mechi. 16 voted for Plateau Governor. And the commander-in-chief associates himself with the victory of the 16 in a democracy. And you are still thinking normally. Ha! I will never think like you.
Martins Onovo was a presidential candidate under the platform of the Action Alliance in 2011. And I asked him earlier if he's running again in 2015. He's yet to decide. But of course, you know where to come when campaign starts later on in this month, in case you're running for presidency.
Well, most parties will conclude their primaries by the end of November, and then we'll know who the candidates are. If I'm nominated, I'll run, definitely.
It's all right.
I'm not afraid to run.
And of course,
if I'm nominated, I'll run.
Core TV News will be a very good place to, you know, flag off your campaigns. And
oh, definitely.
Because you have a lot of followership here already.
Oh, definitely. We're going to invite Core TV if eventually I'm going to run.
And you're going to pay us some very big money as well.
I did not steal $20 billion. I did not steal $20 billion. I'm a normal, hardworking Nigerian like you. I'm just ordinary like you.
Martins Onovo, thank you very much for joining us on Core Digest today. We're going to take a short break now. When we come back, we'll be speaking with our correspondent in Adamawa. We spoke with him earlier, and they said we should call him later because there were lots of stopovers, a lot of, what do you call it, that roadblocks, and he can't make calls where he is. So we'll find out what exactly the mood is like in Adamawa under the ongoing curfew in that part of Nigeria. Of course, we'll take more of your calls after this break. Don't go away.